BMWs are all about luxury, comfort, and convenience, and this retrofit is no exception. Here are the tools that you'll need for this job. Soft closed doors are a very unique and luxurious addition that you can have on your BMW. Now, if you're not fortunate enough to have it from the factory, BimmerTech can help you with our soft closed door retrofit. Now, this installation is a bit more challenging than some of the other ones we have on our YouTube channel, but it is still something that you can do at home. In the event you don't feel comfortable with the installation, we do have installers in about 30 countries around the world, so head on over to our website to find an installer near you. But before we work on anything electrical in our BMW, we always want to start with disconnecting the battery. Anytime you're working on anything electronic in your BMW, you're going to want to disconnect the battery. Remove the cover in the trunk, and with a 10mm socket, remove the negative battery terminal and set it out of the way. Since your car will have no power, take a towel and tie it around the trunk latch so if it closes, you don't get locked out. We're going to show you how to do this on the passenger side of your car. The driver's side has only a few differences that we will cover later. First, you'll need to remove the door panel. Start by inserting a BimmerTech Pry Tool into the small notch of the handle trim and gently pry it off. Remove the two Torx 20 screws that are under the trim. Pry out the window switch plate and disconnect the cable. Next, pry off the panel itself like so. Once it is off, remove all the cables and connectors simply by pulling. You may have to remove some anchors with your pry tool. After that, remove the handle cable and this harness connector by pinching the sides and pulling. Pull the door pin away from the door and now begin removing the foam. BMW used a lot of stretchy glue here, so be slow and careful so you don't rip the foam. Don't forget to be like me and forget to roll up the window. You need that space. Once the foam is off, you'll need to disconnect the latch cable from the latch itself. Start by grabbing the bottom white part and pulling it towards you. It's a tight fit. Then do the same for the top. A pry tool may help. There are a couple differences for the driver's side that you're going to want to take note of. One is if your vehicle has a manual lock, there is a transfer bar from the lock tumbler to the latch mechanism inside the door. Be careful when taking that out because you don't want to break it. The other big difference would be the hood release. It's two Phillips head screws, one holding the release to the plastic trim and then the plastic trim to the body of the car. Remove the two Phillips screws and pull the trim off. For the trim piece underneath the dashboard, it's just the same as it is on the passenger side. Two 10mm nuts that you're going to want to loosen and pull the trim out. With a Torx 35-bit, remove the three screws holding the latch to the door. Push the latch in and begin moving it out. It's a little tricky, so you'll have to wiggle and shift it around a bit. For the new assembly, set the lower unit inside the door for now. This part is pretty tricky and can seem like it's not going to work, but trust me, it will. Start with the assembly upside down, then rotate it in past the black metal window track. After that, with some perseverance and lots of wiggling, flip it up and around and into place. With the magic of editing, we did it! Once you have it sitting in place, reinsert the 3 screws you took out. Next, reinsert the handle cable by pressing it in the top and bottom sections into the corresponding clips on the latch. Give the outside door handle a few tugs to make sure it works. You have to make sure you feed the cables from the new unit in front of the black window guide, so remove the 10mm nut, push the bar back, and articulate it under and in front of the guide. Reinstall the nut. Now grab the supplied hardware and mounting bracket, remove this 10mm nut and this Torx 20 screw. Secure the unit into the bracket like so with the supplied 8mm nuts. Plug in the power cable and secure the bracket in place like so with the 10mm nut and Torx 20 screw that you just took out. There will be a bolt above the 10mm one that seems like it's in the way. That's normal and okay. Now we have to ground the system. In this harness, find the thick brown wire. Take the supplied wire tap, place the black ground wire from the soft close unit in one side, and the brown ground from the harness in the other. Clamp down and you're done. I use the middle and tidied up the extra. Later, Chaz uses the end and does the same. You could also cut off what you don't use. It's up to you. Next, the red wire. Remove the grommet for the door harness loom from the door. Next, carefully pop up the connector latch. Try to apply equal force on both sides. It's a tight fit. Once fully up, pull the connector away. Remove the other side of the seal. Feed the red wire through the rubber tube. Be careful not to damage the connector on the end of the wire. It will take some careful wiggling. Remove the plug from the housing by prying away. Feed the red wire in and pick an empty spot for it. I picked the top right so I would remember. Slide it in until it clicks. Click the connector back in place and reseal both rubber end pieces. We have to run the power from the trunk, and I'm going to start prepping that for now. Remove this plastic trim by pulling up. Use your Pry Tool to remove the plastic pins. I shield my hand with the trim since they can come out with some force. place them back in the trim and set it aside. With a 10mm socket, remove the 2 nuts from the trim under the dash. Pull the trim down and disconnect anything plugged in. For the last piece of trim, just pull it away. To get to the other side of the connector, we need to remove this plastic box. There is one Torx 20 screw in the middle. On the driver's side, you don't have to worry about this. Pull the box back, push the other side of the connector through, and pull it out as much as you can for later. The front door is about as far along as we can get it until we run power from the back of the trunk. But before we do that, we're going to have Chaz work on the back door.
Thanks, Dylan. Now let's get into the back door, guys.
Alright, just like Dylan did in the front door, grab your pry tool and start prying at the bottom part of the door handle trim. Setting that piece aside, we can go ahead and remove the 2 T20 Torx screws that are holding in the door panel. Once again, make sure those windows are rolled up all the way. Then we'll go ahead and pry out the window switch. Then we're ready to go ahead and start prying out the entire door panel itself, carefully working your way around the edges and pulling it towards you. With the door panel removed, everything here is pretty much just like the front door. Go ahead and remove the door latch simply by pulling up, and disconnect all of the wires simply by pinching and pulling. Again, pull the door pin towards you away from the door. Pinch and pull this harness here. Now we can get down and dirty and start removing this foam. I find that it helps a lot if you pinch both sides of the black sealant and pull it away from the door. Be careful not to pull on the foam too hard, as not to rip it. One key difference with the foam on the rear doors is there's a larger piece of black foam glue that you're going to have to work pretty hard to remove. Let's move forward and disconnect the latch cable. The rear doors are a little easier as there's more space for your hands. There are some anchor points that wires being held in place that you could use a pry tool to remove. With everything clear, we can go ahead and start removing the T35 Torx screws that are holding the latch assembly in place. With both hands, start prying away the latch assembly, being sure to clear any wires that might be in your way. Grabbing the new latch assembly, we're going to go ahead and put this in place. Once again, put the motor down in the door for now, and start sliding it into place, making sure to clear any and all wires that might be in your way. Once everything's lined up properly, we can go ahead and put the T35 screws back into place. While we're here, we'll plug in the harness that powers up the latch. Now, we'll have to remove a couple wire anchor points to make room for the nuts and bolts that'll hold the bracket in place. Just like the front door, grab your motor, put it onto the bracket, and secure it in place using the supplied BimmerTech nuts. At the top left part of the bracket, you'll sandwich the metal into the bracket itself. Then, adding in the nuts and bolts, you can tighten everything down. You should be able to tighten it down with just one tool, as the nuts and bolts have some grooves that grip it into place. In this case, a standard 8mm socket will do just fine. It's a good time to dress up the latch motor cabling so that way it doesn't obscure the window from going down. Moving right along, we'll plug in the power cable and dress it into place following the same existing wires that are there. To ground the power cable properly, we'll use this brown cable that's in this harness of the door here. With the supplied wire tap, place each wire in their individual channels and then secure it closed. Again, it's up to you how much of the cable you want to use. In this case, I just used the very end of it and dressed up the rest. Next, from the inside of the door, we can go ahead and push out the rubber grommet of the wire harness. Now, prying up the harness latch, it'll help if you have equal pressure on both sides. Same as before, we'll pry up on the connector from the housing using a pry tool. Removing the other side of the seal, now we can go ahead and run the cable through everything. Once you have the wire in place, put the rubber seal back on. We're going to grab a pry tool and remove the clip housing by simply placing it on one side and prying it out from the other side and sliding it towards you. Now we'll be able to see the little windows on the side of the connector, so when we plug the wire into place, we can see how it clicks. On the connectors, you can see little numbers to identify it on the opposite connector. This is the one I'll choose. As you can see here, I made sure the wire clicks into place just like the existing wires. With that accomplished, we can go ahead and button everything back up and start removing the back seats so we can start running the power cables from the trunk area. Removing the seats isn't too difficult, simply pull up firmly and they'll pop out. Now we'll remove this retaining clip by prying it out so we can pull off the paneling that's going to give us the path for our power cables. Just like Dylan experienced in the front seat, we'll have to make sure that we remove the clips from the vehicle and put them back into the panel so we can put it back on properly later. The paneling on the B-pillar is pretty easy as well. Pry on either side in this area here and slide it down, and it should come out easily.
Now that we got both door latch assemblies installed on both doors, we're going to need to remove this panel, if you haven't already, to start running the power cables. Now we've already ran the power cables to this side of the car, so we're going to show you how to run it to the other side. Before we run the power cable, I'm going to attach the zip tie to it so we can run it to the front of the car.
Release the back seats with the latch here. Feeding the zip tie underneath the fabric, we'll go ahead and pull it out and start tucking it into place so we can plug it into the connector. Accessing the B-pillar connector is a lot easier than the front door. Simply press down on the clip and it should free out into the vehicle. Remove the blue retaining clip. and then plug your cable into the matching pin location as the other. Making sure that the cable clicked into place properly, we can put the blue clip cover back on and reinsert the B-pillar connector so we can tidy everything back up to close out this side of the project. We'll plug in both halves of the connector, tuck in the cable, and tidy everything up in reverse order so that way Dylan can take over from there. When re-anchoring these wires to the hinge, there's only a spot for one of them. Be sure to press in your door handle when reconnecting the door handle cable. Be sure when pressing in your door card that all the clips line up properly.
And now the chassis is done with the rear door, I'm going to finish up the front. Remove the blue retaining clip and slide the red power cable from the trunk into the same hole. Slide the retaining clip back in place, put the connector back into the door, reconnect the two halves, and give the door a quick test. Screw the plastic box back into place and reinstall all the trim you took out after tucking away the red power cable. Reinstall the door panel by reversing everything you did to take it out. When reinstalling the handle cable, make sure your handle is in the closed position.
It'll help to have two people when putting the seats back into place. One little pro tip, you can clip the seat belts into the belt buckles so they can pull through the seat cushions a little easier.
To connect the power, locate fuse 153 and pull it out like so. Place that fuse into the slot of the BimmerTech fuse holder and place that unit into slot 153. tidy up all the excess cable, and put your trunk back together. So there you have it. BimmerTech opens up a wide door of possibilities for additions to your BMW, but it also closes some. With the installation of our BimmerTech soft close door retrofit, you'll never have to slam your doors again. For even more information about BMWs and BimmerTech upgrades, head on over to our blog at www.bimmer-tech.net for a host of information. And just a reminder, big or small, free shipping for all. No matter what you order from our website, we offer free shipping around the globe. Thanks for watching.